One of us get ready to go to jail, right?
The mics are live.
Hey, mics are hot.
Good morning. Welcome to Community Voice. I'm your host, Keith Parris, really talking about our great friend, the gifted and talented one, Keon Jackson. I know he came up today.
We did it last night. Anytime somebody challenge us now, or if we think we did something that was cold, we all now say, because I'm gifted and talented.
That's right.
And I always have to hit the table. But, I mean, Keisha just did it last night. I literally hit the flow. Christine was like, you don't know? Gifted and talented. I was like,
oh, I love this. That nigga going to jail.
Dude, he sure said it. He sure said it. See, I didn't say the N-word, but he sure had said it.
Well, you know, Keith didn't reach his allotment for the month.
I did it all but Black History Month. I'm only doing a quote, y'all. I'm only doing a quote.
Well, I'm telling you, as soon as he met him, he said, he going to jail.
No, history. I told him, man, have you ever seen, though, when they post pictures, he be looking at the picture going, oh, he did.
He did everything they said. Because just like when he did that interview with me, when the interview was over, he was like, well, I think that went well. No, it didn't. It did not. Fool.
Back there, Bob. Nothing to see here. No, do you in real denial?
You submit to everything that the people said. No, he literally got up and he said, I think that went well. No, it did not.
No, you in trouble.
You sound crazy. But dude, and then I'm gonna tell it all now. So then this is all I have to do. You know, you had the sexual harassment allegations and all of that. Mm-hmm. And so he was leaving the studio. And some sister was in the studio, and Keon said he handed him a piece of paper, said, "Get out to her," you know, because I'm leaving. So you know, Keon, being Keon, he looked at the paper. It was his name and phone number. Like, is you? Are you trying to holler? First of all,
being accused.
Yeah, exactly. Like, are you crazy, sir? First of all, she a child. She way younger than you. And,
like, R. Kelly, when he got out of jail, where he go? McDonald's? Where was he accused of picking up girls? McDonald's?
Like, I was like, Keon, like, he couldn't wait to call me. He was like, do you know what this thing? He said, Michelle. I said, do you think he is playerish like that? You know, like, I'm irresistible. Like, no, that King Kong ain't never seen you. You can stop it. You are resistible. Like,
I was watching a piece on, I don't know if it was on Shaq, and they was talking about Rick Fox. And they go, Pretty Ricky, what they call him right now. Because he was like, yeah, they did call him
Rick Fox is fine, but in a goofy kind of way. And like, anybody trying to holler at him.
He's West. Well, that was the whole.
Once you find out,
that's like, the whole recurring joke in Blackish. The oldest daughter, says that Rick Fox is her daddy.
Yeah,
Rick Fox is her daddy.
You know.
Let me do. I want you to stay just for a few moments. And phone lines open. I found out this morning.
So you can see your phones.
I don't know why they open.
Disgruntled employee.
I hear some rumbling. I don't know why. 414.
Black stuff don't ever work.
You sound like Keon now.
Black people stuff don't never work.
Doing Black History Month. Black History.
You gotta get 2 cans in the string. We're playing over here, Jack.
Another reminder.
Know your history.
You gotta get through the whole thing.
2 cans of long string.
Black folks stuff.
Hello, Mr. Jones sitting over the pink slips right now.
Yeah, talking about black folks don't work. We ain't gonna be working.
Hello, Mr. Jones over there. They talking about my stuff.
Hello.
They talking about that stuff.
You got to put a message in the bottle.
Tell all three of them I want to see you.
We got sent for.
to my outfits.
No.
And look, here go Debo. It wasn't me, sir.
No, just
it
three
was
of y'all.
not me, sir.
Respectfully, sir. Respectfully, it wasn't me, sir. Respectfully,
it was Michelle, sir.
Like the cast of Saturday Night Live, Mr. Trump. We didn't really.
Exactly.
We didn't really. So anyway, I'm just curious how many folks are going to participate in the blackout tomorrow.
Say it loud.
I know we are.
I'm black and I'm proud.
We're going to
Yes,
do the
sir.
blackout tomorrow. So I'm just curious for one.
Elaborate when you speak to the blackout.
But the blackout is tomorrow. We don't buy anything from
any non-black business.
Okay.
You definitely do your essentials like medicine. Go to Walgreens, CVS, pick up your medicine. Want nobody expired.
Tyrone. I can hook you up.
Right. But big box stores, the chains, like no gas unless you go into a black-owned gas station. Do we still have one here?
8th and Atkinson.
8th and Atkinson. So that's what they're saying. We need to show economic strength. And so I'm participating. And I told Keith I'm flying tomorrow.
You going on the black airline?
So
Southwest. Spirit.
Yeah, you flying Spirit.
Spirit ain't black. Let me be clear.
Southwest black.
Black people use it.
Black people is luxurious. Spirit and that rough ride.
Have you ever flown Spirit?
I have one time.
That was once
Never.
and never again. Never again.
I don't care if they say, Michelle, you can fly free for the rest of your life. Never would I fly Spirit.
It's only $49.95, but if you want a seat on the plane,
you want
really key.
You want to pay for your purse.
Your carry-on.
You pay for your carry-on, your purse. I'm like, so I pay more in fees than I did for the ticket.
Oh yeah.
But no, I 100% plan to participate.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it tomorrow. And I know, you know what?
So I gotta go get all my paper plates and all that stuff.
I was telling the folks that HBO is doing the 3rd iteration of Eye on the Prize, which is just a great series. And last night they did the Million Man March.
Okay.
And talking about, this will be the 30th anniversary, Million Man March this year.
Where does the time go? That's
It'll be my 30th wedding anniversary. I got married the same year as the Million Man March. Not at the Million Man March.
No one thought that.
Wow,
no one thought that.
Wow.
No, it was the sisters. It was the sisters that was showing up, right?
Yeah.
I'm coming. Well, okay, sister, I got it. But and they showed the young brother who did the poem. The brother he was like 14. It's like 14. He was a freshman in high school.
Okay.
Go back. Think of his name. But they interviewed him and him talking about what it felt like. I mean, you look out there, and I know Tyrone Dumas and others are listening. I hope Marvin Pratt. I remember flying out there on that plane. Howard Fuller, Commander McGee, Spencer Coggs, Tyrone Dumas. I think Tyrone could have been out on the bus. I'm trying to know if he did the bus, but it was the who's who in black male leadership that flew out for the Million Man March, and the whole controversy was.
And they let you on too?
Man, to this day, I don't know how I got on that flight. No, I'm with Debo. I'm with Debo because when I saw all the people on there, and I got to find the picture of us when we're coming back, and they take a picture. Gary George wore a suit.
They let him on.
Yeah, he wore a suit to the Million Man March. But it was amazing, that experience. And yesterday, Dr. McCrae and I were talking about these Pentecostal moments that you have, where people can come together on one accord. But, I would suggest people watch that. We flew in to National, and we took the Metro, and it was amazing. People were cheering, like the women was cheering when dudes got on, and you had brothers there with their sons. It's an experience. I couldn't do, obviously I was too young to do the March on Washington in '63. But man, to be part of the Million Man March, that was just an amazing moment.
And that's the one thing, because I know people will get on me sometimes, like, well, really, it's just me, it ain't people. You male bashing, you bashing brothers, and I'm like, y'all have no idea how hard sisters root for brothers. When y'all show up and take command of a situation, your presence is felt. And I don't mean take command like in a sexist kind of way, but own a problem, own an issue. Sisters, all the sisters I know are cheering for y'all. And just like somebody was saying, the appeal of the Silver Foxes, those brothers. When them brothers fall through clean and just look good from head to toe, you cheering for all of that because you understand how amazing. Like, it's times we look at brothers like, do y'all know how cold y'all are? Because sometimes it don't seem like y'all understand how incredible you are as people on this earth.
When Rhonda decided that she was going to, first she started off with Black Girls Run and then Black Girls Bike, and then she did triathlons and half marathons. I became her champion, and I became her champion because all the years I was doing, and even now, she was always my champion. And so I think when we look at where we would be, obviously we wouldn't be where we were had it not been for Black women who, man, I mean, when you look at what Black women have to do, not had to do, still has to do, and the burden that they have. So they made it possible. And there's a great picture of us at the airport. Now, this shows you how much times changed, because 6 years later, the world changed in 2001. But then you could actually go to the gate.
Oh, yeah.
And so there's a picture of me, Mom, my oldest nephew, Lamar, and Rhonda. And we're at the airport waiting to go. And then Rhonda was going to go to work. She's, drop us off, go to work. But one of the things that came out was that they said for sisters who wanted to come, one, don't go to work, don't go to school, don't shop at white-owned establishments. That was the three things that they said sisters could do. So what Rhonda ended up doing is, my mom lived on 24th Street then. She went over and her mom watched it. Now let me also give you a little backdrop. I got up early. I'm up early. I'm up before the chickens. And so I started watching C-SPAN, and C-SPAN was showing they had so many buses. That's something like 20,000 buses that they had to stage them, and then people had to get on the metro to get to. So the metro ran 24 hours to get people to the mall. And I was thinking, so I watched it. So then BET picked up coverage. By, I want to say, we got to the mall at 10. I think every network had preempted programming.
Because you couldn't ignore it.
Right, to show the Million Man March.
People really had no idea that folks were going to show up in mass. But the people in D.C. knew. Because, and I just want to say, similar to Bayard Rustin and the coordination that happened for the March on Washington, the coordination that went along with the Million Man March, when you start talking about that level of people converging on the city, dealing with these buses, where these buses gonna park, moving people back and forth, like, for whatever glitches that may have happened, you could not tell. And brothers were in such a state of mind, hey, whatever we got to do, we just got to do it. But they did the logistical planning of that was nothing short of phenomenal.
They did something that had never been done before. Those jumbotrons.
Yes.
And they said by putting the jumbotrons out, people didn't have to surge for it because you want to see.
Right.
So they had the jumbotrons. They said there were only 8 in the country at that time. They had 6 of them. There's another brother who goes into the organizing office, and he talks about how organized they were, the logistics that they had. They were using state-of-the-art technology. And then I forgot about this piece. They took up an offering. So the honorable minister said, brothers, take $1 out your pocket and hold the dollar up. And this kid who went to the march, he was from Little Rock. He looked around. He said, this is what $1 million look like. And then the crazy thing was, here's what we were supposed to do. We're all in a cluster. They're passing the money forward to put it in the box.
Okay. Brothers
was taking the money, putting it in the box. So, you pass, and I might have 15 because I'm ahead of folks, giving it to the guy in front of me. It was things that I had forgot about in terms of the details of that and how organized that march was.
Because you think about what it costs to bring in what did you say? Six of the
jumbotrons.
8 jumbotrons that exist in the country at that time. Like the finance, because you don't even think about the financial wherewithal to pull all that together.
And I think to be able to, and then like at that shot, there is that shot. And the National Park Service no longer does crowd counts, right? Because of the controversy, because
of Donald Trump.
No, before that, after the Million Man March, because there was more than 1 million people there. And there's a way that they're able to track or count the crowd.
Yeah, based on
density and distance. And I was pointing out to the folks in the studio before we came on air, from the Capitol to the Washington Monument is 1.5 miles. And then from the monument to the Lincoln Memorial is 1.5 miles. So the mall is like 3 miles. Okay. The number of people there was back to the Washington Monument. We're not even counting the people on the side streets, because there's all these, the side streets that circle the Capitol.
Yeah.
There was 1 million plus people there.
Yeah, I was watching it on TV, man. I remember watching it.
Because I know there was a whole bunch of people trying to downplay it. That no, 1 million people did not show up.
They had more.
It was like 250,000. They did the same thing on the March on Washington. Trying to downplay how many people had actually showed up. But I remember the controversy after Trump, comparing his
to
Obama. And so I know there were park system officials like, we're not in this.
Right.
They
stopped after the Million Man March.
But it was after the Million Man March, though.
And so it was one of those things where, and here's the other piece of it, because there was 1 million people, you couldn't use your cell phone. It overwhelmed the satellite system.
Wow.
So you couldn't use a cell phone.
And it's crazy because like during the inaugurations, you couldn't use your cell phones, but that was because they was killing the systems overhead for safety or security purposes.
Because you went to the first Obama.
Yeah.
Right?
And so they had it so that it was difficult to even use your cell phones while you was in certain areas around DC.
Yeah, so it's a symbiotic moment, certainly for Black folks. The controversy, obviously, Black religious leaders didn't endorse the march. In order for Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton to sign on for the march, though Jesse Jackson and Farrakhan are, they're tight, was this idea that over and beyond atonement, they would do voter registration and the importance of brothers registering to vote.
So I got a question for you.
That was a concession that Sharpton and Jesse Jackson got from the march.
So I got a question for y'all. Do y'all ever think that we will ever see that again?
Well, they did the second march.
Yeah,
but it wasn't like the first one.
No, there's I think about 250,000.
Yeah.
I was there for the second one.
Yeah, they did. The second
that's where I saw J. Cole for the first time in my life.
Mm.
But no, I think there's a word called romance, and when we think about romance, we always think about people in love. But romance is also the moment that things have to line up for that moment.
Okay.
And I think that things fell into place. I think that the Minister Farrakhan had announced in February or March that they were going to have the Million Man March. They were saying in DC, because DC was the hub, that their meetings from the beginning was always standing room only. So there was something that he was able to tap into that was able to motivate, because I was going and I got sick, so I didn't think I was going to be able to go. I got very sick in September. Didn't know if I would be able to travel. We originally were going to drive. Right. A friend of mine worked at OIC, said, no, man, we're going through this travel agent. So I was able, the fact that I was able to do it, look at God, to be in that moment, and when you're part of history, every day we live in history, but when you're part of history like that, man, it has profound. And then I think we left there, long live the spirit of the Million Man March.
So with all of this stuff that's happening in Washington and with them getting rid of, DEI and all of this other stuff, do you think that this is a perfect time for us to unite and come together and do a march on Washington?
I think that the problem that people will have, let me shout out the good folks there at the New Pitts Mortuary. Brother Nate Luckett, Deacon Michael Jones. Good morning, gentlemen. I think the moment, I think the March on Washington was a moment that at that point the things line up just right that you're able to do it. I think though, when you start talking about DEI, and that has been one of those things where um, Republicans have used a wedge issue. This whole idea that DEI represents a certain level of unfairness to the majority. I don't think DEI might be the thing that gets people to Washington. I think that some of these draconian cuts that are being proposed in the budget, where now is beginning to hit people where they live. See, it's one thing where you sit up and talk about Title 19 and you think that it's a program for the poor until you realize it impacts your mother in a nursing home, right? Now you're talking, and then the other piece of it, now, and I think the Dems have to be louder. Understand this. The whole thing, people like Elon Musk, they're talking about tax cuts that's going to go to the rich, not to the middle class, not to the poor, but to the rich. And then the question that you have to ask yourself, a lot of these red Americans, is, are you down for doing cuts in services so then you can fund a multi-trillion-dollar tax cut? Because I think that that's where, rubber's hitting the road now. When they're sitting up here, they have to figure out, if that revenue is not coming in, what services are you going to cut? And they've already said that, what, about 86% of the budget is either defense or entitlements.
Right.
So,
because that's why I said it's only a few places you can actually make these cuts.
Right.
And I do agree, that the Democrats, and I know you got a break, that the Democrats have to be louder. Like, I would be spending money with billboards and messaging all over this country. 1,400 more jobs lost today at the hands of Donald Trump. 1,400 Americans out of work today. I was talking to one of our friends who lives in D.C., and he was telling us that that we talked to him last week, that in that last week, 4,000 homes had went up for sale in D.C. Federal employees who no longer can afford their homes, they're moving out of the area. You gotta make them own that.
And I think the other piece, being in government all my adult life, you always hear people talk about it. There's waste, and the amount of waste in government is relatively small. And then when you look at where the real cost and waste is in defense procurement, cost overruns for weapon systems.
Just got. And there is now no check and balances on those dollars.
Allegedly, there would be no conflict of interest.
Hundreds of millions of dollars.
So if you're sitting up, and look, I understand, Trump thinks he's so smart. So put Elon Musk out there, let him take the hits. And then when it comes to the point where he can no longer use Elon Musk, he's gone. And here's the other thing, y'all. Elon Musk is putting a whole lot of money in the state Supreme Court race. Mm-hmm. And I think that this is an opportunity, again, for the Dems and other progressive groups out there. Yeah, she might be.
George Soros put in $1 million too.
Good.
Yeah, he put in $1 million for Susan Crawford's race.
All right, Michelle, thank you for that. I just wanted to know, we will be doing the blackout tomorrow.
Yeah. I'm in.
414-444-5250, 414-444-5250. Callers, we see you. We'll pick you up right after the break.
960 AM and 106.5 FM with your host, Keith Parris.
All right, welcome back to Community Voice. And let me do this and then I'll get to the callers. Our Black History Month book of the day is Native Son by Richard Wright. Native Son by Richard Wright. Michelle was saying that it was a hard book to read because of the brutality in the book. But it's the whole story of Bigger Thomas. And I think I know that there was a movie done. There's been two, but Oprah did the second one. So again, Richard Wright's Native Son, and most list of Black books to read. This one is always in the top 10. So again, Wednesday's book, Black History Month book of the day is Native Son. Caller, welcome to the program.
Good morning, and thank you for taking my call.
You're welcome.
Oh, and thank you for bringing up the Million Man March. That was such, I can't even describe the momentum and the feeling and what we had for our Black men. I didn't get to go, but I sure contributed so other people could go. And that is excellent. That shows what we can do if we put our minds to it. But the next thing, I had got calls from my relatives in the South, and you bust my bubble because I thought I was going to be telling y'all about something not shopping on Friday. But they were saying, don't do Uber Eats. Don't spend no money that day. Hold out, spend it the next day, but do not spend it. And I just like to add another thing. Go open up an account at a Black bank. Let it go off the chart showing what we can do when we put our mind to it. And the other thing that I want to mention, for older people, I know everybody just sick of saying, go online, do this, take a picture of the Q code. And they don't even know how to operate. They have their kids get them a laptop for Christmas and fail to get them some lessons. So at the Dominican Center, 2470 West Locust have computer classes. There are two classes, and the number over there is 414-444-9930. Go. It's a lady that's in my class, and I'm doing a refresher because I just lost some things. 92 years old. Do you hear me? And sharp. So come. That's why I keep saying it's so important to join these community groups, to be a part of something. Keep your mind active. And I'm glad for that announcement that Greg Lewis made. College students, people that get into the political arena, because if we don't, we're going to be hurt. Come hear what it's all about. Because, but we're still going to be behind the 8 ball. I don't understand how a lawyer, like the vice president, gonna make a statement, don't obey the law. I'm confused at what they're putting out there. And to show you the ignorance of Trump, I think he's afraid of Elon Musk, tell you the truth. He done put so much money in it that he goes along with anything. Why should he be in on this meeting? And now that you have your staff there, you don't need him, because you could tell those department heads, I want 10% of your staff cut. And they'll know how to close accounts out, what people need to go, and not just go in there like a bulldozer, just bullying things out, not knowing what you're doing. It shows no intelligence. But please tell me it's something more going on in the Republican Party than just racism. It's a fear. Somebody is threatening them. Somebody is doing something that would just make you sit still and watch your country go down the tube and bring the oligarchs and Putin into our face like it's nothing. What's wrong with us? Help me out. Thank you for hearing me.
Someone texted me. They said, can you answer this honestly on the air? It was a good thing, but have things really changed since then, and have they've gotten better or worse in our community? You know, when I remember first getting back from the Million Man March, and some of my co-employees, what y'all gonna do? What y'all gonna do? the step to freedom is a multitude of steps. The Million Man March was not going to change what had been 400 years in the making. But it was that step, right? It was just another step in terms of us being woke, in terms of our consciousness, the impact that it had on the lives of the men who were there, and then even on their families. So things change. And then, what do you control? We don't control the economy, and then we act as if we had made it. So there was no need to struggle and fight anymore because many of us achieved a certain level of material success. But at the same time, we found out that those things were still there. White supremacy is still there. Racism is still there. Classism is still there. Homophobia is still there. I mean, all those things that I think plagues a society. And there are things that are happening when the sister is talking about, see, at first you were kind of going like and look, people a lot of times they're only going to take the sound bite and run with the sound bite. So when I was listening, and it's real interesting when you listen to Trump speak. I was in the car listening to that cabinet meeting yesterday, and he's just making up numbers. This dude is just making up numbers that the math didn't add up. It really didn't matter. So when they said you got a 150-year-old person still receiving Social Security, that's not true. You probably had that person where they haven't been purged from the records, but payments have not gone out. You find out, and that's the one thing about government, that once they put a safeguard into place, a lot of times it's the innocents who get caught up in it, not necessarily the guilty, right? So when you look at the level of fraud, they talk about Medicare, and I think that it's like 3%, where you go to other situations. So we need to be mindful of the bait and switch where they have because conceptually people have we need to deal with that waste. And what does that mean until you go in not doing an analysis of workforce? It was something I heard Michelle say, an algorithm used to determine what's going on, work effectiveness. So, for example, you go in and say, well, we're gonna fire these folks. You're a probationary employee. We don't have to give you a reason. We fire you. And then you're firing people at the Veterans Suicide Hotline. Now you have Trump coming out how much he loves veterans, but yet you'll cut that. Or you cut positions and you fire people who are responsible for making sure that the that whole nuclear payload we have in terms of missiles, all that stuff is secure. So when people on you can go like you should always cut government until you realize just how intertwined we are with government and dependency. One of the things they did when they talked about shutting down the government was you would exempt certain things. So Social Security payments will still go out if you shut down the government. But then there's still all these other services that we want to go to. Somebody wants to take a cruise to Jamaica, and now you've done a cut at the State Department. These are the people who we just got our passports, right? We just renewed our passports. But now you can't get the passport on time because they're short-staffed. So it's one thing when people go in, and I've always pushed back on this idea that if we apply business principles to government, no, government is about providing services to people. Business is about making money. So you can go in, if you're looking at your bottom line and you're looking at your shareholders and say that because the biggest part of doing business is always personnel, we're going to cut 10,000 people from our workforce. Okay. So then we can maximize the amount of profit that goes to the shareholders. That's how business operates. But government doesn't. And the fact that we form government is because by us putting our taxes in, there's a mutual benefit we then have for having government in place. And there's nobody in this country that's not impacted by government, either on the federal level, state level, local level. So people come out and like I said, it sounds good. Oh, we need to get rid of waste and fraud. And what you find out is in order for them, and this is what they're doing, test balloons to see how people are going to respond to them making a $800 billion cut in Medicaid. Okay. The other piece of it is if that's not enough, where do you begin to look at? Medicare and Social Security. That's the bad news. So to answer your question, George, I don't know. Things change, but then things remain the same. Materially, I think people have gotten better. Look, one of the things that we were enjoying when we went to the Million Man March was the Bill Clinton economy, right? Things economically was doing very well. But then the backdrop of that, prior to the Million Man March, we had Rodney King, okay? And then we had the LA insurrection. So no, I don't think that I think sometimes the more things change, they remain the same. But when you look at certainly even where we're in 95, our streets in many areas, man, was like a war zone. And they talk about this whole war, the war on drugs and the crackdown and how we had to build more prisons because the idea wasn't to deal with the systemic reasons that drove that drug trade. What we did was, and many of us, and I was just watching, this was also part of Eye on the Prize, they had James Foreman Jr. And I know that name sounded familiar. James Foreman Jr. Who is James Foreman Jr.? James Foreman Jr. wrote the book Locking Up Our Own. And I remember highlighting that book when he came out. And he talked about how that crime bill that we now just decry, half the Black Congressional Caucus voted for that crime bill. Because there was a reaction, not a response. There was a reaction to the level of violence that we saw on the streets relative to the drug trade. Now, here's the difference. People were dealing with crack was not offered rehabilitation. They were incarcerated. People dealing with fentanyl and dealing with other opiates today are offered Narcan, offered rehabilitation. We have not necessarily criminalized the behavior. So they're wake up, everybody. You're sleeping in bed. Caller, welcome to the program.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I finally got in.
Mm-hmm.
And it hurts my feelings that all these dissertations before me, I even get cut off sometimes. But my point I want to make. An earlier caller said we need to put our money in black banks. And my response to that is we need to know how to handle money, and we need to know that there aren't many people who have any money to save. What we need to do is we need to take these mortgages for the rich people, black and white, black especially, and take them to a black bank. That's a way to make money. And a way to do that is black banks need to handle their mortgages a little differently than the average bank. And at a certain credit union, I'm a customer, a member. When you make a payment, a mortgage payment, they take the interest first and the rest goes to principal. With that formula, you could make 3 or 4 mortgage payments and you'll be accelerating your mortgage. That's just one thing. And Elon Musk, we talk about subsidizing. Elon Musk is the richest person in the world, so to speak. And where did he get his money? He got his money from government contracts and subsidies. And that's where most of the rich people get their money. Also, the national debt. They're talking about doing all these cuts and making more efficient our budget. The money that the rich don't pay in taxes would cover everything. I think I'll just stop right there, but y'all have a good one.
Yeah, I think, and there's the mythology of the American dream, right? And how if you work hard and take your vitamins and say your prayers, you'll get ahead in America. That's not true. And that kind of gets us back to even when we begin to talk about what DEI does. And I think that, not for me to say how people should respond, but I'm going to tell you my response is my understanding of DEI is it says it removes barriers. So, for example, and then this becomes this whole idea of equal access. Excuse me. Every spring, probably starting next month, on most college campuses throughout the country, you will have recruiters who will come on campus to recruit potential employees for their organizations, right? What they're arguing, one of the things they argue in DEI is to say that everyone should have the opportunity. So if I go to Harvard to recruit, I should also go to Howard to recruit, because the people at Howard should be made aware of those opportunities. Get rid of barriers that allow people then to access things. And this whole idea is, Marion, you work hard, and and then the fact that you can have Pete Hegseth, who is the head of the Defense Department, basically come out and say that the only people that seem to be able to manage are white males, right? And so that's how we should look at it. Like, white males, they all got ahead because they worked hard. It had nothing to do with, look, Donald Trump, the only reason why Donald Trump is ahead is because his daddy was rich, right? Because if his daddy wasn't rich and him trying to come up with his mental acumen, he'd be on welfare. So the reality, and I think the people have to get out the emotion of the moment. You push back, and you and they always said that this went back to 2016. The appeal of Donald Trump for certain people was that there was somebody coming to take what I got, right? Whether it was the migrants who were crossing the border, who actually came in to do work that Americans would not do. Okay. You have to figure it out. And then the other piece of it is, it all started off, and I got to remember this. And I don't know how many of you all, when you watch a game, you got to remember the game is not necessarily over in the first quarter, and you get you got to keep going. There's 4 quarters. And there are things happening out there where, and it's one of those quotes of my mom, some people can't do wrong right. There are consequences. And chickens come home to roost, and there's this thing called karma. But that doesn't mean that we sit back and say we do nothing. If tomorrow, if nothing more, is symbolic that it's a blackout at the last day of Black History Month, and we're able to do that, then fine. Let's do it. Let's do it. Caller, welcome to the program. Good morning. Good morning. No? There was a little thing that happened. I don't know if anybody had heard. You have this AI, it's where you can go in, and I know I use it, and I'll go, I'll look up a word. I want to know the meaning of a word, and I'll put in a word. On Apple's AI, we don't know if it was done by a hacker, but when you put in racism, Trump came up.
Really?
And you put
Whoa. Wow.
So they don't know if it was a glitch in the system.
Man.
They don't know if a hacker put a bug in. But a couple of days ago, if you put in racism, you were using Apple AI, Trump would come up when you said racist or racism, which was which is, wow. I don't know if that, like I said, I don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
And let me thank all the folks who were part of, and we'll be doing it next month again. Let me thank all the folks who were part of Faith, Justice, Politics, the Reverend Dr. Richard Shaw, Student Minister William Muhammad, Pastor Walter Lanier, Dr. Demetrius Williams, Dr. Trinette McCrae. I think that those were the ones that yep. And so I want to thank them. And next month is Women's History Month. And so we'll certainly have a lot of conversations around that, I would say that issue, but certainly women. But I really want to thank Dr. McCrae. People who heard her yesterday thought it was just incredible. And she's been my shero for a long time. And I say it all the time. I don't care what you look like. I just want to know you can preach.
Come on, God.
And, so a whole lot of folks and, dealing with our issues, but in terms of male-female relationships, but the barriers that women in ministry have to overcome is far more than the barriers that men have to overcome when it comes to it. So again, thank all those folks who were part of that. Thank all the listeners, those who participated. We appreciate that, appreciate them. And I was just honored. I mean, I learned so much, which is always a good thing, right? I learned something. You're listening to Community Voice. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
Northside Community Voice on WNOV 860 AM and 106.5 FM with your host, Keith Parris.
Welcome back to Community Voice. And on February 24th of this year, we lost Dr. Alvin Francis Poussant. He was born May 15th, 1934. He was a noted author, public speaker, and television consultant. He was the consultant for The Cosby Show and then the spinoff with Lisa Bonet, A Different World. He worked in psychiatry. He was at Harvard before he had retired. And this was a book, hopefully it's still in print, that I'll be able to get. While living in the South, Dr. Poussant learned much about American racial dynamics. He soon delved into his first book, Why Blacks Kill Blacks, in 1972, which looks at the effects of racism on the psychological development of blacks. Most of Poussant's work focused on the mental health of African American individuals. And so, so there's an article out there he did in 1968, Black Power, a failure for integration within the civil rights movement. Just a number of books that he's done. Raising Black Children, originally titled Black Child Care, 1975. He co-authored with James P. Comer. Lay My Burdens Down, Suicide and the Mental Health Crisis Among African Americans. He did that along with Amy Alexander. That was done in 2000. Come On People, On the Path from Victims to Victors by Bill Cosby and Alvin Poussant. They did that in 2007. He's done various articles, but Dr. Alvin Poussant passed away. And good morning. And so we just wanted to that, and wow, we also have Roberta Flack. Yeah, so people die all the time. Every day, man. People want to have a seat. All right. Good morning. How are you?
I'm great.
I'll pull that mic down a little bit there for you. We're joined in studio by Sister Valerie Ricks. Good morning.
Good morning.
She's with Northside Rising, Citizen Action of Wisconsin. How are you?
I am favored and highly blessed. I'm doing good. Even through the bad, I'm coming out like a rose.
There you go. That's why we're in spite of people.
Yes. Yes.
In spite of.
In spite of.
In spite of. So tell us a little bit about Northside Rising and Citizens Action of Wisconsin. That's interesting. How old is Citizens Action?
40 years old.
Exactly, because me and my buddy, one of my first job applications out of college was with Citizens Action of Wisconsin. They were down on Wells then.
Okay.
Yeah, man. I ended up being my best friend there. We both applied as organizers.
Okay.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about this.
Well, Northside Rising is Citizen Action of Wisconsin is our umbrella organization. I work with a cohort. Okay, we have offices in Racine, Kenosha area, Green Bay, Wausau, Driftless area. So we have representation all throughout the state. Northside Rising is probably one of the newer co-ops because there was just not enough participation. There was not enough input. There was not enough direction coming from the Black community. And Citizen Action realized that if they're going to be a statewide organization, they really needed to make a serious effort to get more involved in the Black community. And they've hired, I think we have a team of 5 now, organizers in this area, actually a team of 3 and 1 in Racine, Kenosha. Then we have our manager here. So we're hitting Milwaukee pretty hard as a community organization, and we are just that, a community organization.
What is the difference then between, is this a 50c3 and a 50c4?
Actually, most organizations are only a C3. They're nonprofit, and they can tell, a C3 can tell you when to vote, where to vote, how to register to vote. But a C4 can take it a step farther. We can interview candidates. We can encourage people to run for office. We can train people to run political campaigns, and we do. We train people and encourage the community. Stop complaining about your community. If you don't like the leadership, maybe you're the leadership that's missing. Stop complaining. Learn how to put together a campaign. Come out and canvass with us, knock on doors, talk to people, find out what the issues are. Because as a community-based organization, you find out what the issues are by talking to the people in the community.
We can have issues, right? And obviously we do. We have a plethora of issues.
Oh, yeah.
But the advocacy part of is, and it's something I always hear people. I love when I hear a person running for elected office saying, "I'm not a politician." You are a politician because you're involved in politics. It is partisan usually, but most of what we do, so even the advocacy is politics, correct?
Yes.
Because that, if I'm going in advocating or lobbying for a particular law or a particular policy, that's politics.
Yes.
So maybe we kind of understand that what we're doing is always political.
Don't be afraid of political power. Embrace it. Because for most of us, when we think about power, we think about the abuse of power. Think about power in some different ways. Power is the ability to impact people. Power is the ability to influence people. And all of that can be for good. Power is what you need if you want to make positive changes. You need power. You need some money. Since we don't have Elon Musk money, that's okay. We got people power.
When I think in as politics and power dynamics in our relationships, we won't get into personal power politics, but I think more than we realize, and you're right when you hear how we almost make politics pejorative and negative. That's one part of it. The other part of it is the civil rights movement was politics.
Politics at a high level. It's still Black History Month. Try to learn something new still if you haven't this month. But remember, the civil rights movement is a chess match. It is not tic-tac-toe. Think of the strategy involved with using young children to integrate schools where parents knew people would be hostile enough to try to physically assault or kill their kids. Think of the strategy that went into thinking about what was going on at the time and what Black people were up against and why that movement was important. Because the Vietnam War was pushing the Black civil rights movement out of everybody's mind, out of the news cycle, and out of people's memory. And Black people understood we've got to do something. We've got to do something to really grab everybody. And they sent their best and their brightest and their best behaved children dressed in their Sunday best.
And we were just talking about at the beginning of the program, the Million Man March, and but that again, and even the March on Washington was for jobs.
Yes.
A lot of people forget that it was jobs and freedom, and basically them going in to petition Congress, who in August was out of session anyway. But we see it all the time. What is the difference between an issue advocacy and power organizations, and particularly power organizations?
I think this is really important for us as a community to start wrapping our heads around. An issue, consider school desegregation or school integration, however you want to call it. Once a victory was called on that level, on that issue, basically the people who worked on it dispersed They might have gone into working on other things. But that power base that was built for school desegregation didn't necessarily stay around and work on any other issue. Okay. They were about that one particular issue. An advocacy organization, and there's a wonderful one, PAM, Prison Action Milwaukee, and they advocate for people who are incarcerated and are being treated unjustly. And it might be anything from the fact that they're being isolated or solitary. It might be that they're not getting medication that they should need. They're not getting, they're diabetic. They need special socks and shoes. They're not getting that. So this is an advocacy organization for people in that circumstance. The difference with a power organization is we look at all the issues in our community that we don't like. When are we going to change those issues? Not just making sure that somebody who is incarcerated is not treated poorly while they're incarcerated. When are we going to look at the reality that this system will put Black men in jail and up under the jail, kill them in jail, abuse them in jail for little or nothing? Most Black men first get involved with the criminal justice system because of a traffic violation. We're looking to change the structure, the power structure, to address these issues.
How do you build power around an issue?
First thing you do is you talk to people. People will tell you what their issue is. Let me use an example. I know that our current president would not listen to anything that I'm saying, but I would tell him, you lost the first time over healthcare. Healthcare is going to get you again. Because it's important to everybody. It doesn't make any difference how much money you have. If you need a new kidney, you got to find someone that can match your body with a kidney and be willing to give you one. Medical care is important to everybody, and it becomes more important during certain phases of life or if you have certain challenges. But building power is listening to what you, the community, tell me the issue is. When I first got out and started doing this, I was supposed to ask about climate change. Is that a big issue for most Black people? And it is for us, but we don't call it climate change. All right. What we see that really scares us every day is reckless driving. What we see bringing death, to our communities, fear to our neighborhoods, keeping our kids from being able to play in the street, okay, like we used to, is reckless driving. So I go through the community and people tell me, you got to stop. They tore down this fence. They ran into this house. They hit these kids. Well, you hear Bobby Portis of the Milwaukee Bucks now talking about Vision Zero. Vision Zero is vision zero traffic deaths every year. That's Vision Zero, also known as Complete Streets. We've created flyers. We've started to educate people. We've also started to lobby at City Hall to tell people, okay, we need to slow folks down because the community needs this.
But you were talking. I was. I've been watching the series Eyes on the Prize, the third iteration, and Ben Chavis was on talking about environmental justice, and they were talking about how I think it was in a place called Institute, West Virginia, where there's a Union Carbide plant, and they did all this dumping, and the people who just happened to be adjacent to it were descendants of enslaved Africans. And it's also the home, I want to say West Virginia State University, the Black college there.
Yes.
But environmental issues. Right now we're dealing with an environmental issue with MPS and the buildings and the lead, and that impact is having on the health of the young people who are currently in those buildings.
We also have those issues in our housing. Okay. And most Black people live in a part of Milwaukee that is called redlined. Realtors, leaders, elected officials basically put red lines on a map and said, outside of this red line, we will not sell houses to Black people. Okay? It doesn't make any difference how much money they have. Because if they don't want to go out to River Hills and spend really, really big money, nope, we're going to keep the average working Black family in pretty much the same area. A lot of us live in what are called sacrifice zones. These are zones that have a lot of lead. They were older industrial areas. There's plenty of abandoned buildings that are full of asbestos, that are full of lead, because asbestos was just a major building component at a time. No one knew it was as dangerous as it's turned out to be.
Well, they probably did, but they didn't tell us.
There was so much exposure to it for everybody. I don't even know. I don't know.
I just, at this point, by just the history of corporations and products, that it's like smoking. Tobacco companies knew that all the carcinogens they put in the cigarette would cause cancer. And they looked the other way because profits, cash rules everything around me, right? It's always, great, right? I mean, it's so, if I'm a little cynical, it's only because usually when we find out, literally after the dust is settled, that there was probably some things that people knew. And I think that even when we talk about this organizing, what we're seeing happening on a national level where they're trying to downsize EPA, for example, right? The impact that that's going to have in terms of the air we breathe, the land that if you're telling people that there are no regulations, then people are going to dump in areas that, again, impact poor people.
You probably saw the news recently about these 30 tires that have been dumped up on Cornell. I live close to Cornell, okay? This is ongoing. And one of the things that we have got to do as a community is don't just get mad, get active, and decide that you're not going to let people treat you that way, because there is no one in this Black community who could take a car full of garbage, all right, and take it down to the Deer District and just throw it out their car wherever they want, empty out their trunk full of garbage. You will not be allowed to do that in certain neighborhoods. Don't let it happen in yours. Don't let it happen in yours. And when you see people dumping, tell them to stop dumping. And if they don't dump, don't be afraid to call on them, because they have no right to poison us.
Right. What are some of the issues that Northside Rising is building power around?
We actually are having a lobby day on the 4th of March, going down to Madison, because this is budget time. It's time to make people to put their money where their mouth is, and to make elected officials understand what the community really wants. So some of the things that we are definitely going to talk about: healthcare. And we have people who will talk about how they were denied claims, how they got, if you want to, I call it the runaround. You got to go to this specialist. You go to this doctor, you got to go to the specialist. You go to the specialist. It takes you 6 months to get in the specialist. In the meantime, you're getting worse. All right. Then you get to the specialist and they don't want to cover a certain kind of procedure. We are pushing for the expansion of healthcare. Look at the community like a plant. A plant is not healthy if the roots, the stem, the leaves, and the flowers are not all healthy. So we have to make our community healthy through and through. So that is one of the things we're building power around, and we are pushing climate equity and green jobs. Part of this is education and encouragement, because or I should say maybe trying to activate and educate. There are a lot of people who don't completely understand all the ramifications of lead exposure for a child. We have a lot of children who are considered disabled. That's a lifelong label, a lifelong challenge that all could be attributed to lead in a house. So we seek to educate people, first of all, sometimes you got to just start looking at things differently. Look at our neighborhoods. Look at the garbage on the street. Look at the torn up streets. How does it look this way in other neighborhoods? And if so, why not? We're also very much pushing green job development. That will be one of the things that we're talking about at Lobby Day. We really want to see a $4.5 million investment in Milwaukee for green training centers. And this is everything from being an arborist, because there are a lot of trees in Milwaukee that are, they're called invasive because they're not indigenous here. But 10 trees on your block gives you 2 extra years of life, because that's what it does. That's what a tree does as far as cleaning your atmosphere, as far as keeping your soil from eroding. Okay. So we want to educate around these issues, but activate around them. We need job training for our young people. Green jobs are the jobs of the future. In short, these are jobs that will help you make better use of water, wind, electricity, gas. It includes solar power, heat pumps, HVAC, door and window replacement, weatherization. And yes, ladies, some people you can do these jobs too. I'm a small woman and I've got a background in the trades. You can do these jobs too. There's not a single job that I've talked about that pays anything less than $21 an hour, including full benefits. These are jobs you can build a family on. These are come up jobs. These are jobs you can change your life with. Like I told a young man, this is the kind of job that 3 years from now, you can have a wife, 2 kids. You can be driving a pickup truck. She can be driving a Lexus, and you could be looking at buying your first house.
Wow, we got out of pickup truck.
I like pickups.
I
really
Lexus
want a
too.
Silverado.
I want the Lexus too. I couldn't help it. Keep style alive, and I couldn't help it.
Okay,
you got some work to do. Hold on. I want the Lexus too.
I'm gonna let you have the Lexus, and I'm gonna have the half-ton. Okay, pickup. That's what I want. A 3/4 or a half-ton. Get out of my way, I'll run over you.
So, what does it look like to be involved in a power organization, and how do people get involved, particularly with Northside Rising?
What does it look like to be involved with a power organization is that you are always talking to people about the issues that affect our community. People are often telling me, you don't really want to hear what I have to say. Yes, I do. I would prefer that you not curse me out or call me names, but tell me what you really think about the community that you live in. Tell me what's right. Tell me what's wrong. And then let's work on all of this and build it up together. But you need to talk to your neighbors. You need to know them. One of the things that we have lost, and I know that there's a lot of young people listening, but when you hear old people talk about we've lost community, we have lost the sense of caring for each other, being concerned for each other, and doing for each other. I didn't grow up with no food banks, but every person understood in my community, everybody had a garden, and you might be sent to work anybody's garden as a child, because when the food was harvested, you might be sent any place to harvest the food. So you was going to work to get it. And wasn't nobody coming in our community taking care of us. We took care of us. Okay, we took care of us. So this being involved with this kind of power organization means that, yes, you will engage the community. What do you think about the upcoming budget? What do you think about money being spent on this? Are you seeing these curb bump outs in your community? How does that feel? What do you like about it? What don't you like about it? Do you know why it's there? Do you know why it's important? Do you want to get involved with this? Do you want to see more green spaces in your community? Well, then who do we have to talk to get that? What alderperson do we talk to? How many times do we have to call them at their office? How many emails do we send them? How many text messages do we send them? to make them listen to us as a community and make them understand they work for us. If they do not provide for us, they got to move around. And that's a power organization.
So if people want to be involved,
Well, you can give me a call at 414-885-5640. That's my office number. So you can text me or leave a phone message if I'm not at the computer. You could also call me on my cell. That's 414-416-3348. I have it on me and charged most times. And the other thing is, if you're really looking for some more information, go to Citizen Action Wisconsin.org. We have a platform that includes criminal justice reform, climate equity, healthcare for all, and some other things. Get involved with our organization and make changes in your community, because there are two people right now, one at a county level, one at a city level. Both of them got their seats by 17 votes. 17 votes that's a carpool 2 times. That's 2 times in a van where those elections could have been changed. So understand we have that power, but we got to get out here and use it. And that's talk to people, knock on doors, be willing to engage with the real issues, be willing to talk about what's going on at MPS, not pointing fingers, but how are we going to fix this? Not the blame game, because the solutions are in us. We're the community. We're the people.
Ms. Valerie Ricks, Northside Rising, Citizens Action of Wisconsin. Again, that phone number.
Phone number 414-885-5640 or 414-416-3348.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's been fun.
You're listening to Community Voice. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
106.5 FM with your host, Keith Parris.
All right, welcome back to Community Voice. And again, our phone line's open, 414-444-5250, 414-444-5250. And just do a little tease for our program tomorrow. We're going to be doing beefs tomorrow. B-E-F-S. Beefs.
Where's the beef?
Where's beefs? So B-E-E-F-F-F-S. And again, let me do just a quick cleanup. I think I caught myself yesterday, but Meech had called in, and he was talking about I think Pentecostalism, and I could not think of the first name of the revivalist. How do you spell revival?
R-E-V-I-A-L-S.
Oh, there you go. I don't think that's how you spell it. There we go. There we go. That's how you spell it. Oh,
It
okay.
was R-E-I-V-I. I don't know.
Mhm.
Like revival. So they told me there'd be no math, man. So.
Yeah, but what about spelling?
Right. Then what about spelling?
The Azusa Street Revival was a historic series of revival meetings that took place in Los Angeles, California. It was led by William J. Seymour, an African-American preacher. The revival began on April 9th, 1906, and continued until roughly 1915. Seymour was invited to Los Angeles for a one-month engagement at a local church, but found himself barred due to his controversial views on baptism with the Holy Spirit after his first Sunday. He continued his ministry in the homes of sympathetic parishioners, and on the night of April 9, 1906, first one, then six others in the meeting began to speak in tongue and shout out praising God so loudly that the neighborhood was alerted. The news quickly spread and the city was stirred. Crowds gathered. Services were moved outside to accommodate the crowds who came from all around. People fell down as they approached and attributed to God. People were baptized in the Holy Spirit, and the sick was said to be healed. The testimony of those who attended the Azusa Street revivals was, "I am saved, sanctified, and filled with the Holy Ghost," in reference to the three works of grace of holiness Pentecostals, the original branch of Pentecostalism. To further accommodate the crowds, an old dilapidated two-story frame building at 312 Azusa Street in the industrial section of the city was secured. This building, originally built for an African Methodist Episcopal Church, had more recently been used as a livery stable, storage building, and tenement house. In this humble Azusa Street mission, a continuous 3-year revival occurred and became known around the world. Stanley H. Frosman, in his book with signs following, quotes an eyewitness description of the scene. The revival was characterized by spiritual experiences, accompanied with testimonies of physical healing, miracles, worship services, and speaking in tongues. The participants were criticized by some of the secular media and Christian theologians for behavior to be considered outrageous, unorthodox, especially, at the time. And I want to pull up the legacy. What happened here? Okay. Seymour remained there. In 1913, the revival at the Azusa Street had lost momentum. Most of the media attention and crowds had left by 1915. Seymour remained there with his wife, Jenny, for the rest of their lives as pastors of a small African-American congregation, though he often made short trips to help establish other smaller revivals later in life. He died of a heart attack on September 28, 1922. His wife led the church until 1931, when the congregation lost the building. They talk about the number of missionaries that went out. I want to say the churches that came out of this. They said many Wesleyan holiness denominations adopted the Pentecostal message, such as the Church of God in Christ. The Pentecostal Holiness Church are now Holiness Pentecostal denominations. Holiness Holiness Pentecostals, such as the Apostolic Faith Church, affirmed the three works of grace, new birth, entire sanctification. The formation of new denominations also occurred, motivated by doctrinal differences between Holiness Pentecostals and their finished work Pentecostal counterparts, such as the Assemblies of God, formed in 1914, and the Pentecostal Church of God, formed in 1919. An early doctrinal controversy led to a split between Trinitarians and Oneness Pentecostals. The later founded the Pentecostal Assemblies of the World in 1966 and the United Pentecostal Church in 1945. So out of that movement, you got the Church of God in Christ, you got the Church of God, and you got the Assemblies of God. All of that and others had come out of the Pentecostal movement in America. I was really surprised at the extent of Pentecostalism in Australia. There's a strong Pentecostal strain there in Australia. So there has been, there are differences. I do know that for apostolics, they baptize in the name of Jesus. I don't know what the baptism is in the Church of God in Christ. I know in the Baptist Church, we baptize.
Father, Son, Holy Ghost.
So it's Trinitarian. I know that the Baptist baptismal rite is Trinitarian because we baptize in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost.
Keith was to say something like, in great obedience to the word of God, I baptize you in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. And then they take you down. And I seen the preacher drop a guy one time.
Yeah, we almost dropped one.
I seen one dude, he was struggling so hard, he pulled the preacher down there. The preacher started struggling in the water after he baptized.
Yeah.
He was drowning.
Yeah, and we have some instances where, the question is, can we waive that particular right? Because that is the two primary rites or ordinances of the Baptist Church is baptism by immersion and then Holy Communion. Those are the two. I think it's also baptism in the Catholic Church and Holy Communion, the what they call the Eucharist, the body of Christ. So it's
Kojic does the same communion as well as the baptism.
Right. And so where the if you're at a mass, there's communion served at every mass. There's the scripture where Jesus says, this you do as often as you do it in remembrance of me. Some people, I don't know how often. I know we're once a month in terms of communion. I know some people might have 1 year where
I don't know. Do you recall, Jermaine?
Say it again.
How often do you have communion in the Church of God in Christ?
I think it's, what is it, every first Sunday?
Okay, so it's once a month.
Yeah.
Right.
Is it? Cause I thought it was just whenever they felt like doing
And
it.
I know, I
it's
think
every first
Episcopalians too also are every service. So it really depends. Caller, welcome to the program. Good morning.
Hey, Keith.
Hey.
Can you hear me, Keith?
Yep.
Yeah. Hey, because it's almost the end of Black History Month, I have a bone to pick with you. Well, not a bone to pick with you, but you said clean up on aisle whatever it is.
Today would be aisle 5. Yeah.
Okay, aisle 5. Okay, this brother called up.
Well, here you go.
Call back, man.
Call back, man, because I want to hear this.
Interested.
Yeah.
Like everybody was like,
Yeah.
yeah, he was going.
Hey, Debo, and I think it was the joke you told.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Rhonda thought it was funny.
I told you.
Yeah, she thought it was.
Did
funny.
y'all understand what the man was saying?
Yep.
What was he saying, Jermaine?
You was talking about?
Hey, what up?
Yeah.
Can I get my hate on, man? I got 2 pieces of hate. You said no.
Today ain't Friday, but I'm gonna give you special dispensation, and you can do hate on Thursday.
Thank you. This hater nation number 3 here. This Trey.
What up, Trey?
Hey.
What?
Go ahead,
What,
man.
brother?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So, my first piece of hate is I'm so sick and tired of these people, okay, including black people, starting to do it, calling these grown-ass dogs pups.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
They're not puppies. The dog is 5 years old. That's 50 in human years. It ain't a pup. Okay? And the second piece of hate I got, and it ain't personal, Keith, because you do it a lot.
Uh-oh.
Okay? So it ain't personal hate. It's just journalistic hate. I hate when you journalists include me in all the garbage that the government is doing. We are cutting Medicare. We are taking away food stamps. We are doing this and we are doing that. I ain't doing nothing but sitting here in my living room watching these idiots on the television taking away my rights. Stop saying we. Say they are doing it. All right.
Are you a Republican?
Hell, come on, Keith. You know better.
That wasn't me. That was Debo.
I just asked a
Oh,
question.
Debo said that. Hey,
Yeah.
Debo, you gave me a nice T-shirt. Watch it, bro.
Hey, are you a Republican?
Yeah, I didn't want to.
Well, let me.
But hell no, I ain't no Republican.
Can I respond?
Sure, of course.
Okay,
Absolutely.
we gonna be affected by those cuts.
Yeah.
we gonna be affected by what's going on. So yeah, so we.
He don't want to be French now.
Yeah, we.
You got it in proper context now. But when y'all describe what these people are doing, especially in Washington right now, please stop saying what we are doing. Okay?
We are being impacted by.
We about to shut down the government. We ain't shutting down no government. They are.
Yeah. Now it's like them. Who them? Who them?
Them is the maggot. The maggot crowd. That's who doing it.
He said maggots, not MAGA. Maggots.
Yeah.
Maggots.
Really personal here. As Keith say, I'm going to digress and check out. See y'all next.
All right, man. Appreciate you, man.
Well,
I mean, we's gonna be affected.
We's.
yeah.
Now you went back to slavery.
Oh, we's gonna be. Me and Key, I used to go back and forth. I go because I used to call him Silas. I say, Silas, you know how to read? He go, no, sir. I don't know how to read. Man, I was watching. There's a thing, and I don't know why I didn't watch it the first time it came out, but I was watching it. Am I Black Enough for You? And it was talking about the history of Black films, and certainly how the images and the whole thing. And you know, one of the books that we featured this month was Spook Who Sat by the Door, and there's a scene from the movie. And that was really amazing. He said, I'm paraphrasing, he said that a Black man with a mop and broom had access to a whole lot of spaces, right? And that you're invisible. So you sitting there cleaning up, the people who were porters, ushers in the White House, where you know you're up against the wall and you hearing everything that's going on. And so he was just saying how you go in a lot of times, and even though you're invisible, another book that we talked about, Invisible Man, Invisible Man, that was Richard Wright, right? No, that's Ralph Ellison. So this whole idea that you go in, learn, take it all in, don't say nothing, be a fly on the wall, just learn how to sit there, and you learn a whole lot. When you're sitting there, there was saw this skit, and the founding fathers was doing the Constitution, and the enslaved individual noticed a grammatical error, and he corrected them, and his owner said, Keith, you know how to read? He go, no, sir. That whole idea of not learning, when you talk about education and the importance of education and the importance of knowledge, don't let anybody convince you that ignorance is a good thing, and stop celebrating ignorance. You do not have to have a formal education to learn. And there's this thing called lifelong learners. You know, I text Dr. McCrae last night and just told her how much I learned. Or when I'm talking to Dr. Williams, the idea that we can still learn. Do not shut off knowledge And sometimes knowledge is uncomfortable because it might push up against what you've been taught and what I've been taught. Accept this little reality. Sometimes what I was taught might not be right. Caller, welcome to the program. Good morning,
Mr. Parris. Yes, sir. Assalamu alaikum to you, brothers. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Listening to you earlier, you were speaking about the Million Man March, and I excuse me, and I wanted to contribute to the conversation here or today that one of the one of the primary reasons for the Million Man March that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan called, and it was not on purpose when he initially made the statement. It was just more like what they would call, I don't even want to give that Freud the credit. It was a law that caused him to speak that or to have that utterance at that moment in time. But one of the primary principles for the Million Man March was to collectively call Black men together for responsibility for atonement at one man, so that the world could see us as more than what they were presenting us to be before the world, as egomaniacal berserkers, out of control annihilators of one another, and we were being portrayed as the menace, or the menace, because that was my favorite movie when I was a youngster. Menace to society. The numbers one, the Roman numerals were used in the title of the movie. So what it was about, more so than just the gathering, is us showing the world that we were not savages as they were presenting us to be, so that they could not justify our destruction by the government of the United States of America. Thank you.
Appreciate you, man.
Yes, sir.
Let me thank Miss Valerie Ricks. Let me thank Michelle Debo. Thank you. Jermaine, thank you. The good Lord willing, creek don't rise. We hope to talk to everybody tomorrow. And as always, go from this place in peace.